Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 8th, 2024 Town of Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners meeting. I call this meeting to order and I invite everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I invite everyone to please join me in a moment of silence. Okay. All right, the next item of business this evening is our agenda approval. Board, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. The second, do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. So our next item of business is public comment. Now's the time we set aside for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any topic of their choosing. We do ask when you are called upon, approach the podium, speak into the microphone, and identify yourself by name and address. There will be no debates. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you're speaking as an individual, and 5 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of a group. And if you have any written remarks, please turn them into our town clerk. If anybody would like to address the board on public hearing, I should have made that bet. All right, Ms. Debbie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Name and address.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're
I
fine.
am Debbie Swick. I live at 59 Deer Path Lane, Southern Shores, and I am the creator of Band Balloon Releases in North Carolina. Again, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners and guests. I'm so very pleased that you have the ban for balloon releases on your agenda. I cannot thank you for being patient with me enough. I know I have been here about 7 times, and I appreciate every moment that you have given to this very important topic, and I just wanted to extend that thank you to you. I just wanted to show you, if I may, this bag of balloons has been collected by what I like to refer to as my balloon warriors. There's 5 of us. These balloons were collected in Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, Southern Shores, and Nag's Head, one in Duck. This is 5 months of balloons. Okay, these are accidental releases, purposeful releases. We've actually collected some from a release in Virginia, a memorial release. But this is 5 months on 4 beaches, just so you see what the impact is. Before you, you have an ordinance that you created with a $25 per balloon fine. As Mr. McAvoy has repeatedly stated, this is going to be an enforcement nightmare. I would encourage you to perhaps think about, as other towns, Duck, Southern Shores, and Kitty Hawk have done, a $250 balloon per balloon ordinance fine. It is before the Dare County Commissioners with the same amount, as well as the state of North Carolina in legislation, $250 per balloon. The reason that I stress that amount as opposed to $25 is my hope is it is a deterrent that is going to make people think twice. $25 will not do that. $250 will actually make people think twice and perhaps put the brakes on before they even release them. I also ask that you broaden your coverage to include all of Kill Devil Hills as opposed to just town-owned property. You have a magnificent town here with wonderful people. We all that live elsewhere enjoy all that Kill Devil Hills has to offer. So I ask that you do extend that to all properties as other towns have done. And I'm not asking you just to follow in suit, but I'm asking you to be responsible to the people of this town and include all of Kill Devil Hills. You have on your town website a sign that says, "Knowing is not enough, you must take action." I fell in love with this sign. I thought it was magnificent, except I would tweak it to say you must take the best action. And as a people, we have to do what we can to help this planet, to help the environment, and to help the wildlife that we so have fallen in love with here. I would like you to consider that balloons cause litter. I would like you to consider that there is death and harm to the wildlife. Think about some of these animals that are threatened and endangered already. And then these balloons that get retrieved leave behind microplastics, and microplastics affect all living creatures on this planet. Consider that you, as the Board of Commissioners for this incredible town and its wonderful residents, have a responsibility to do the very best place that you get to call home. On a side note, I have purchased, and I hate to even say this because the word purchased is horrible. I purchased these balloons on Saturday. The reason that I purchased these balloons were that they were tied to a milk crate. I'm sorry, this is not it, but it is similar to this. It was tied to a milk crate to attract attention for sales. And I begged at a music fest. I begged and pleaded with them for hours to let me have these balloons. They frayed in the wind. The ribbon got twisted and tethered. And just as they finally said, okay, you can have the balloons, one broke free. We were able to grab it. An intentionally released balloon, obviously, we see a cluster of balloons, we can put a stop to it. But when you allow balloons to be tied outdoors, on mailboxes, on signs, on porches for celebrations, they too can become a problem for the environment. So please consider stopping all tied outdoor balloons. I'm not asking for balloons to go away. I would just ask that you please put a halt to balloons tied outdoors for that same reason, as did the Association of Realtors put a ban to it. Thank you so much for all of your support in the past, for the resolution, and for your consideration for this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Would anybody else like to speak at this public comment period? I got a few interested folks.
Mayor and Kill Devil Hills Commissioners, my name is Miriam Rollin, and I reside in the Outer Banks at 149 Plover Drive in Duck. I'm here today to address the agenda item of balloon releases and a potential Kill Devil Hills town ordinance. The following information is from the Marine Debris Program at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So balloons and balloon releases are often used during special occasions, weddings, graduations, celebrations, memorials, birthdays, holidays. Unfortunately, as you've heard, I know from my friend Debbie, unfortunately, once they go up, they must also come down, and balloons that are released can get snagged onto something like tree branches or electrical wires. They deflate and they fall back to Earth. Most seriously, they can create problems in the oceans with our friends, the ocean marine mammals, turtles, ocean birds, and other wildlife that we care deeply about in the Outer Banks. And I know you all care about in Kill Devil Hills as well. Balloons can be carried by currents and winds. They have far-reaching impacts. So even though I'm not in Kill Devil Hills, I and my beautiful marine friends, the turtles and birds and marine mammals, will be affected in Duck by your decision. I don't think Kill Devil Hills wants to be the only jurisdiction that doesn't care about turtles and marine mammals and marine birds in the Outer Banks. Balloons are frequently mistaken for food by these animals, and if eaten and ingested, the balloons can lead to loss of nutrition, internal injury. String or ribbon is often found tied around the necks of many of these marine animals through entanglement. It can cause illness, it can cause suffocation. There's also obviously a human and economic impact in terms of trash being on the beaches, and that's not a beach that any of us want to go to. So is there a problem in the Outer Banks? Yes, and it's getting worse. Some of the numbers from the Cape Hatteras National Seashore that they've collected last year, 1786 balloons in only 70 miles of that coastline, and the number collected in 2022 was less than 733. So the number went up significantly. So it's a bad problem, and it's getting worse. Luckily, we can stop this. There are better ways to celebrate, whether it's any of those types of celebration that I mentioned earlier. You can do streamers and plants and reusable ornaments. You can plant a tree. You can scatter birdseed, wildflower seeds, do bubbles. Bubbles are always a great option. Some states have already banned balloon releases, including Virginia, and even now, most recently, Florida. But North Carolina does not. And so we have to rely on local jurisdictions to do the work. So given all of this, as not only an OBX citizen, but also a very active member of the Network of Endangered Sea Turtles, who responds to nests. And we actually just responded to one in Kill Devil Hills not too long ago. There's a great video on Facebook, if you haven't seen it yet, of the mama turtle going back to the ocean. So we want to protect that mama turtle in Kill Devil Hills and all of her friends. Okay. So thank you very much. Please do adopt the balloon release prohibition, also the tied outdoor balloons, and the $250 per violation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you were next. Be my guest. Everybody will have a new time. Let's see.
I'm in no hurry because this is really important to me. So my name is Dr. Kathleen A. Silva. I am a resident of Kill Devil Hills, and I live over on Maxine Street. I've been living here for a couple of years. I do vote, so does my husband. I am also a volunteer with Nest, and I'm also a volunteer to clean up the trash this year. I don't know if you've seen me and my dogs, Abbott and Costello. I'm just here to say that I do support the ordinance for the ban for balloons. So I am wholeheartedly for that. And I know many people that live around me who couldn't come tonight also feel the same way. So thank you so much for keeping where I live now as beautiful as when I moved here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak? I guess.
Hi, my name is Richard Clements. I do live here in Kill Devil Hills at 2004 North Virginia Dare Trail. And I hadn't really planned on speaking. I came as a guest to kind of support the issue as well. And do want to state that I do support this agenda item, and I support her recommendation for the increased fee. At the same time, I want to support and understand Mr. McAvoy's concern with enforcement. I'm a tour guide of the Wild Horse Tours up in Corolla. Been doing that for 8 years. I've been living here for quite a while. And we are steps from the beach there at 5th Street. We walk over and pick up trash. It's not unusual for us to bring home a kitchen garbage bag full of trash from Avalon Pier to about down to Sea Ranch in one evening. But what's really interesting about this issue is that up in Corolla, when I get on the beach to do my tours, I will pick up 1 to 3 balloons a day up there. Now, I don't collect them in a bag like this. Some of it's just to give my guests the understanding of the importance of protecting the natural habitat and how dangerous these balloons are when they get in the ocean. They're out in the sun bleaches out the color, they look like jellyfish. This is why the marine life eat them. So I kind of educate my guests. We pick up the balloons when we can. But I just kind of hit me as I was sitting here thinking, perspective for you guys. You're busy. You don't always spend the time on the beach that maybe some of us do. We all live here to be at the beach, but I'm there 6 hours a day, and it is really, really a lot of balloons that we're seeing out there. And I think more so even in just the last few years, more trash in general. But I will say this, at our little spot there at 5th Street, the guests pick up on what we're doing. And our beach has been way cleaner. Even after the 4th of July celebration, I was amazed. I went and picked up trash, but they're getting the idea. And I just want to point out a parallel, and that is rice at weddings. When some of us were first introduced to the idea you weren't allowed to throw rice at weddings anymore, it's like, what? But it's all been accepted. And I think that's the big push, is to get people to recognize the alternatives, birdseed, whatever they were saying. So while it's a sticky issue, maybe I don't understand, the resistance. I'm not a part of all that to implementing it, but I just think if we do it, we make it happen, people will get used to it and the word will spread and people will keep the balloons inside. Balloons are great, but keep them inside. That's all it is. I hate it when I see them tied to a sand fence to tell people this is the access to come into Corova. I'll get out of my tour truck and cut the balloons off and put them in my truck, pop every single one, because it is dangerous. And we see the results when we get the washed up mammals on the beach up there. Anyway, my time is certainly up, but just wanted to say, I support that. And I understand it's a difficult thing to kind of transition, but think of rice at weddings. That's what we're talking about. It's just a new step to take to provide protection. Anyway, all right, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Clemens.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak this evening during our first time for public comment? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to board response to public comment. Thank you all. Debbie, always a pleasure to see and hear from you again. And I'm glad you brought some friends along today as well. And I think a lot of what we're going to deal with this issue here very shortly, so we could probably just move on with the agenda and talk about it then. Town manager, do you have any ongoing business
No,
this
sir.
evening? All right, then we'll jump right into new business item number 1, Town Code Amendment. Requested Town Code Amendment, Chapter 50, Garbage Service, establishing Ordinance 50.035, prohibition of balloon release on town-owned property. Discussed this quite a bit. I'll open it up for discussion. If anybody has questions for staff, now's the time to ask. How does the board feel?
Well, I'll start by saying I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a societal change that is going to come. I mean, it's just like when we banned plastic bags here. People fought it and people didn't understand it, and then all of a sudden, a year or two later, everyone was using reusable bags, and you didn't see plastic bags in the trees anymore, and that went away, and now you see plastic bags everywhere in the near the storm drains. And so I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a societal change. I hope that North Carolina adopts it. And then I think that'll, that's going to be the biggest step.
Did Florida recently adopt?
Mhm.
Okay, I thought I saw that in
Yeah.
the news.
They did.
I have a question. If we pass an ordinance, of whatever the severity of the enforcement may be, and the county comes along and passes one that may be stricter, will the town adopt which ordinance supersedes the other?
The ordinance that you adopt for your corporate limits is what the Kildare Hills ordinance is. The ordinance that the county adopts will be for unincorporated dare.
Okay, so they follow the boundaries just like that we have
Yes,
for
sir.
the towns. All right, but North Carolina comes along and makes the land, then that's the law of the land.
You could,
If they could adopt something stricter.
We can't be less
Right.
strict in
Yeah.
that particular scenario than what the state allows. That's correct.
Okay,
And this only restricted to town-owned property?
yes, sir.
I think it ought to be town-wide.
I do too.
That's my thought. And I'm in favor of the $250.
well, it's been brought up quite a few times. It seems like we have some interest in it. I'll open it up for further
If
discussion.
I may,
Yeah.
just as background too, so everyone understands why this particular ordinance is in front of you in the form that it's in. If I recall correctly, I think direction, not that it can't be changed, but direction at our last meeting was to bring you back something that mirrored or was close to Nag's Head's ordinance. And that's what this is. So
Okay.
just to, as Debbie said, there are other towns out there that have different ordinances that do make it the entire municipal corporate limits with higher fines. This was tailored more after Nag
Gotcha.
said, which was simply the direction that was given.
Gotcha.
So just pointing out that's why it's in the current form.
Well, I am definitely in favor of town-wide. And I'm in favor of $250.
Town-wide release or town-wide? display or, because that's, I think it's important to just clarify that.
As far
Because I
as,
think that's,
Well,
Now?
let me
I'm
Go ahead.
pretty,
sound in here. I'll jump in.
that's really tough.
I think personally, I'm amenable to this ordinance. It's not. I don't agree with it. I think it's a very difficult ask for the resources of the police to be used for this type of thing, because there's going to be a watch group, and that watch group's going to call the police, and the police are going to have to come out. And they're going to be, they have other more serious things going on in the town, but $250 for every balloon. I mean, that just seems over the top, and then now you're leaning towards displaying a balloon is also going to be, so basically trying to get rid of balloons altogether. That's the next step. So for me, like, the enforcement part for the police, the resources that they're going to have to use to this, where, that's going to take their attention away from other things that are, seriously more of a public, risk in what they do on a daily basis. So $250 a balloon or $250 for a group of balloons, that's just an incredible fine. I mean, I think this $25 fine is, if anything, reasonable. But, I don't agree with this to begin with, because I still think this is a law that's not going to be easy to enforce, not going to be enforced, and not going to be easy to enforce. So enforceable and enforced, those are two separate things. I've studied criminal justice enough to know what you're making this a civil penalty. It's not a crime, but it's also going to come down to intent, and the word intent is in here, right? Intentionally release, and that's open for debate. So is there going to be a process to appeal the intent of the release? So there's a lot of pieces to it. I think it's just overbroad. I think it's overbroad. I understand I have no love for releasing balloons. I've never released a balloon, I told you before, on purpose in my life. Not one time. And I don't know many people that do, but I know there are people that, they're memorializing something or whatever. And I'm okay with that going away. But, to make it, to pass these ordinances that are difficult and hard to enforce, and either won't be enforced or will take resources away from the policing this community, I don't agree with that. I think the fine would be excessive at $250. Not just. Now I've come along. Let me finish. I've come along. In my mind, compromising to agree with this. You know what I'm saying? But there's 5 people up here, so we all have to vote. But it's a very extreme ordinance, and it's $250 is certainly extreme. And then now, this is what happens. It's a slippery slope. We start moving. Now it's display. Now you can't display a balloon on your.
what we have here though is release.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
it's
there's
not
been
display,
some
it's release.
discussion about release, Commissioner Ingram, and then of course you mentioned it as well. That what's next? All right, we're not happy with this. We want display. So now if you put a balloon on your mailbox, that's going to be a fine. And I just think that's a slippery slope to go down, to really going after people all the time for balloons. I don't disagree with you that it's a bad thing. Who would? I mean, who reasonably would believe that it's not a good thing to release a balloon? 100%. I agree with you. I think it's an awful thing for the environment. I would never do it myself. But you're talking about, you do have the occasional, often, actually, probably more often, unintentional release of a balloon. I would say more often is unintentional release. So who's going to police that? I saw a balloon got released. I'm calling the police. Police come out, levy a $250. I mean, think about the practicality of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Police come out. Now they got to write a ticket. They have a witness. Somebody said there was a balloon. Was it intentional? Was it not? All these things come into play. And now we have, who knows, an hour to clear this call about a balloon release that was or was not intentional. And that's gonna, I guarantee you, most people will say, "Oh, it was unintentional." Of course, they'll say it was unintentional.
So now we have a debate whether it's intentional, unintentional, and $250 fines at that. You know, 25, we'll see what happens with it, but 250, I'm sorry, that's extreme. And I am not passionate about balloons in any way. I do not love balloons. I don't work for a balloon corporation or anything like that. I'm more in line with you, trust me. But it's ordinances and the responsibility when we have passing ordinances that are either enforceable and enforced both. Okay, so that's my responsibility, not to save balloons. Okay, so just so you know.
Other board member thoughts?
I do partially agree with Commissioner McAvoy. I worry about the strain on police and public safety and how enforceable some of this is. I was more, I hate to use the word prepared given my lateness, but more prepared to lean towards something in line with what we had talked about with regard to Nags Head tonight. Not to promote the slippery slope idea, but could we perhaps look at adopting something closer to Nags Head and seeing if that's helpful, or if we need to increase the regulation at a later time, or do we go the full tilt? I don't know. These are my thoughts.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, your thoughts? We'll refrain from. We have another time for public comment later in the meeting, and we'll open it back up to the public then.
So I think for me, I mean, I went to the manager of Harris Teeter when they first opened and asked them not to give out balloons to kids, and they stopped giving out balloons to kids. So this is what I've done for 20 years since I've lived here. So I'm fully in support of what we have written here. And I think, mirroring something similar to what Nags Head has makes it, number one, more consistent, which I think is difficult sometimes when we have such different laws. So it does make it consistent with Nags Head and our neighbors. And so that is, I think the importance of it being quote unquote illegal is when someone looks it up and they are trying to do a memorial, they say, I tend to believe that most people are rule followers, and whether that's naive or not, but I think people want to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. So if they look it up and they say, oh, their balloon releases are illegal in Kettleville Hills, then I think that alone is going to mitigate 99% of releases, because I think the majority of the people are going to try to do the right thing. Personal property is tricky. I think I tend to agree. I think it's a strain on police. I think it's, I don't know. That's difficult. As much as it's very near and dear to my heart. That's very difficult with our police force and their limitations and their time already. Now, at the same time, I do see maybe raising the fine. I would be supportive of that, because I do think when you look at something and you're like, oh, $25, you might have some people who are. So those are my thoughts.
When we started this conversation, you brought up the old plastic bag ban. And even though it's sad to say long repealed, I'm going to give kudos to Food Lion, because they adopted and they kept paper bags, not just because it was the law, it's because they listened to and they understood their community and kept a good practice in place that they still hold today. Yes. So, and that, I think a lot of people appreciate that they did it. I hear clearly, and I share a lot of the same thoughts of what was discussed before, but I do think we've talked about this at length, and we can use today's ordinance as a starting point, learn some more about it, see where it goes. I mean, we have neighbors in Dare County that have adopted stricter ordinances. Let's see what their results are like, and if we find that they're having success and these problems reduced, then we can always revisit this and look at beefing it up down the road. But out of the spirit of having something we worked quite a bit on in front of us and something I feel like is well supported, I'm happy to move forward what we have tonight with the idea to continue studying it. We're not closing the book. We're just moving on to the next chapter.
You want me to come back?
Oh, I am not. You're not. I want you to bring 3 Santa Claus sacks full of bags back next time, and then I am amenable to, even if we keep it within the boundaries that this is. We could make that fine. I mean, we could adjust it to make it a little more serious.
Well,
So-
let me say that my thought and my support was for the release.
Mhm.
And, you know, I do support the 250 fine. I'm not going to vote against it because of not having it. So,
I mean, I think the fine, we just need to, that for me, the big thing that needs to stay is intentional release. That has to be in there. If somebody accidentally has one get away
yeah,
for a kid's party or something innocent, then they
that's right.
should not be. This is for people who organize and plan releases for whatever reason that may
Yep.
be. That's the bad habit and that needs to go away.
I propose we stay with 25. One, because of the consistency, I think that's fair. But also because I think if you start levying $250 fines, every single person is going to say it was unintentional. That's a serious amount of money. If you're going to try to hit me with $250, I'm going to tell you that my release is unintentional. Then I'm going to want to appeal it to some extent, and there's going to be a process. I mean, that's a serious fine per balloon. Is that right? You know, so that's, to me, you know, that's going to cause. I don't know what the process is. Is there a process?
Yes, sir.
So there's a process to obviously to appeal a civil penalty.
Yes.
And what is there, a hearing of some sort? A hearing involved, and hey, you start throwing $250 fines out there. Let's see how this is enforced, how it is, how many tickets are written, okay? And then if you think it's not enough, then let's come back and look at 250, because 250, that's serious money.
And it'll probably stop them.
Well, it should, you know, I don't think anything's stopping anything, because when people go to a jurisdiction, unfortunately, think about yourself. When you go to a state, you read all the general statutes for that state you went to, but you are subject to that state's laws because you're
That's
visiting there. And most people don't know. So they're not going to know unless there's a sign that tells them. So, you know, people aren't going to look up that law. If their state has it, they might be inclined to think maybe we shouldn't do this. If their state doesn't, they probably won't think about it. But, you know, it's not something people will do when they go on vacation, look up the law.
I seem to have, there's 2 variables that this ordinance is dealing with. The monetative amount of the fee, and then I guess the size of the jurisdiction that's going to cover. And I have heard a few, would the board like to expand the size of it? Or we okay where it's at now? Town limits? Or do we want to go townwide? I'm comfortable starting with this and then learning more about it.
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm
Yeah.
comfortable starting here.
I will also vote yes if we start here.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion if someone would like to make that.
It's as presented then, correct?
I guess it will be,
Yes.
yeah.
Are you looking at
I'm asking
adopting
the,
it as it is?
correct, as presented.
Then it would just simply be a motion to adopt or to approve as presented.
Then I will make that motion that we adopt this as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, not hearing none. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 We have a balloon ban,
A balloon release
a
ban.
balloon release
Yeah,
ban.
balloon release
Ooh.
ban.
Well, I fell in the hole right there, didn't I? But, and again, you know, we take this issue seriously and we'll continue to study it, and, you know, these things take time, but thank you all for being active, caring about our town, caring about our county, and thank you, Debbie, for all the hard work you do. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 2, appointments. This meeting, we have 2 vacancies to address for the Historic Landmarks Commission. Longtime member Andy Harrell has resigned as he's moved out of town. We have one member, Amy Scarborough, whose term has expired. She expressed interest in being reappointed. We have another open seat. I'll open it up for discussion if there's any names or.
I support Amy Scarborough.
Okay.
Being reappointed.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'll throw out a name for Mr. Harrell's old seat as Catherine Jean Freeman. She had applied, and I know her, and I think she would. She has a lot in the community, has a lot of experience that's applicable, and I'll make a motion to appoint Catherine Freeman to the Historic Landmarks Commission.
I'll second that.
Well, should we?
Does that include?
We'll include
Amy?
Amy. So I'll amend my motion to reappoint Amy Scarborough and to appoint Catherine Freeman to the Historic Landmarks Commission.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, congratulations, Scarborough, Ms. Freeman. Next item of new business, 2024-2025 North Carolina Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access Grant, East Haven Boulevard. Meredith, I'll turn it over to you to share
Yes, sir.
some of the scope of this project.
Yes, sir. Several months ago, we did a pre-application for the 2024-25 CAMA Access Grant for East Haven Boulevard. As y'all know, East Haven has several, I think it's 70 some parking spaces on the west side on the road. Previously, if you looked at the grant package that's in front of you, it was very flat. It was very easy to traverse from one side to the other. Our beach nourishment has been very, very successful, and we've got about a 25-foot dune there now. So it has become very difficult for a lot of people to get over, especially with equipment and things like that. Plus, we want to protect this dune and not have it being beat down with foot traffic. So we've applied to do a dune crossover. It will be a stair system crossover. We cannot fit the switchbacks
Zigzag.
because of the distance of the dune from 12. It's not physically possible. But even not being a fully accessible access, it is more accessible to mobility challenged people that can't climb over sand dunes. Stairs and hardened structures do make it much easier to get to the beach. And that's how we applied for the pre-application. We were invited to do the full application. This is a 75-25 grant, meaning the total project estimated is about $106,000, just to estimate. We will be responsible for 25% of that, which is around $26,326, and the state will take the 75%. Part of the grant application is to bring it to the board with the application in hand for y'all to review and approve for the full application to be submitted. It is due, I think, August the 1st is my date.
Meredith, if this project is, if we approve it and we move it forward for CAMA consideration and everything goes forward, do you have a guess on timeline of when construction would begin?
It would be, hopefully, if all the stars align properly, it will be ready for next season. CAMA's grants go on a calendar year, so we would be awarded the grant somewhere in December. The money would be available in January, and it would not be a long project. I think that in talking to Pete, it would probably be a 60-day project, so we could very conceivably have it completed before next summer.
Oh, okay.
And we also have a crosswalk there with the LED lights.
Yeah.
It is our only access north of 5th Street that has any parking. All of the accesses in the north end are pedestrian only sand accesses with no parking. So it is not much there for folks that have trouble climbing sand dunes to get to the beach. So we're trying to provide that. Hopefully we'll get it if y'all approve me to apply.
Well, what's the board's fancy? What do you think? What are the thoughts?
Sounds like a deal.
Yeah.
Preserve our accesses.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why do they offer such a grant? They have an interest in preserving accesses as well.
So CAMA does a grant every year to provide public access to all of the state's waterways and public trust beaches.
Oh,
So we've used CAMA grants to build the Moore Shores dock that was the kayak launch. We've used it for multiple beach accesses. Most of our beach accesses actually were CAMA grants because they're 75-25, whereas tourism board grant is a 50-50.
Yeah.
So we tend to use the tourism board grants more for the recreation side,
Mhm.
and we use the CAMA grants as much as we can for the access to our waterways. So we used it to build Hayman Pier, Moore Shores, West 3rd Street. I mean, any access you look at that you see the little bird, the CAMA sign, likely means that they partially funded that access.
Yeah, having attended Coastal Resources Commission's meetings, they're pretty aggressive in soliciting grant applications from all over the state that qualify. They really want a lot of participation, and they're excited about these
They
sort
want
of
to preserve
projects.
the public access.
They sure do. And not just on
Yeah, and-
on just the coast, it's inland
Yeah.
waterways too that have access to this as well.
Any of our 7 coastal, any of the 7 counties under the CAMA regulations can apply. A lot of them are riverine, so they might be a pier or a bird watch area or things like that if they don't have a beach. We tend to use it for beach accesses, as do most of our municipalities here in Dare County.
Well, I think
Makes
it's
sense.
a pretty cool project. I'm really happy to see folks in the north end of town have better access to the beach.
Yeah.
Spot couldn't be better. We're off Hayman.
Yeah.
Well, would anybody, I see a lot of nodding.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve and authorize staff to submit the 2024-2025 Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access Grant application to construct a dune crossover at East Hayman Boulevard as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nice work, staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. The next item of business is committee reports.
None here.
Everybody's looking out into the crowd. I see a hand raised. Sue, Yeah. Podium is yours.
It's nice to be back.
Nice to have you.
Nice to see you back.
Thank
Ma'am.
you. My name is Sue Kelly, 211 Sea Village Lane, on behalf of the Community Appearance Commission. And it really is nice to be back here. It's been a while. We first of all, let me say our next meeting is this month, Thursday, July 25th at 8:30 a.m. We are now meeting every other month, unless there's some conflict. We have made changes as we go along sometimes. Let me say, first of all, I think you've probably seen these, but do you know that we are handing this little kit out to all the businesses in town? We have made a commitment to divide them up. Parker made this great list of all our businesses, and the staff has put together this. So we took the money you so generously have given us and bought these bags. And this is another version of the bag, a smaller version. And they're bags that fold up inside themselves. So they're really cool. And maybe the most important thing in here, I mean, there's a sticker in here and our brochure, but there's a lovely letter, a very positively written letter to the businesses, introducing them to the Community Appearance Commission and affirming our desire to see our town be as beautiful as possible. We think it's very encouraging. So our members are taking these and taking them to businesses to just kind of let them know what we're into, and maybe we'll get some ideas from them about things that we can do. I think you all know that we discussed the balloon issue and were very supportive when Debbie came to us. Let me also just say, on behalf of the commission, the horse is wonderful, and the fireworks are great.
We are also participating at our markets. We have a table at the markets. And you know that different groups and organizations, clubs, community groups take the accesses and make a commitment to clean them up. So just to let you know, the Community Appearance Commission is on the job. We've been out twice. The goal is 6 times a year. So just, I think it was week before last, 4 of us went out in the heat and picked up a fairly significant amount of trash. I think that all else I'd like to say is that Debbie came to us with the idea about the balloons, and as a former government teacher back in the day, her doing this, gathering her support, getting her people together, coming to the folks, having her information all set. To me, that's a cool thing and should be a significant, more frequently used aspect of government and public folks. It's pretty impressive. And while we have not had a chance to talk about Heyman Street, I can say both personally and I think on behalf of the commission that it's a great idea. I mean, that's my end of town. So anything you do down there, it's very pleasant to me. I live on the north end and I'm very proud to do so. So I think that's it. Unless anybody has any questions, it's a pleasure to see you all.
Pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Do we have any more committee reports this evening? All right, we'll move on to commissioner's agenda.
Nothing here.
All right. Mayor's agenda, I have a few announcements to share. On behalf of the board, I would like to take a moment to express our gratitude to our staff who may, for the folks that were not at home enjoying July 4th holiday weekend, we had a lot of folks, especially our first responders, who were working very, very hard to keep our crowds and our community safe during July 4th festivities. I to share a quick story. I got to record a greeting for town, for staff and for folks and for everyone before the fireworks began at Avalon Pier. And that was a very festive, energetic crowd. And that was a lot of energy in one place. But our first responders were there, our fire trucks were there, we were ready. And the way our, especially fire people, were speaking with the community, as were the police, it was all friendly and warm and inviting. And our first responders went out of the way to make sure everybody had a good time, but they did it safe. And it was just the positive energy was palpable. So Chief and AC, thank you both for what all your folks do and really not just keeping our community safe, but keeping it fun when those times come on as well. I'm excited to announce that we will hold a ribbon cutting ceremony for the William E. Gard Fire Station 14 and Dare EMS Station 1. It is planned for Monday, August 5th at 3 p.m., and there will be an open house until 7 p.m. And a neat little coincidence is that former Chief Gard's birthday is also August 5th, so we not only would dedicate a fire station to him, but would also recognize his birthday. I hope everyone can join us for this event, and more details are coming on the town's website. And I would encourage everyone to go check out our new fire station. It's a pretty awesome facility, and people will be very, very proud to go see it. Another thing to share is mark your calendars August 6th. So first week of August will be pretty busy in Kill Devil Hills. So Monday is the ribbon cutting for the fire station. Tuesday is National Night Out from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Lowe's parking lot again, I assume. Yes, and more information for this really wonderful, fun event to come. I encourage everybody to come to National Night Out. It's a really nice time. Last year we had really pleasant, cool weather for it. It was a nice change, and we're got our fingers crossed, and we're hoping for the same thing again this year. So always very, very well attended and a real good time. And last thing I have to share is please come out and join us for our First Flight Farmers Markets on Tuesdays during the summer, right over here around Frog Pond and Aviation Park from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Parties over Santa Claus. Santa Claus will be at this next event. So they're interrupting a summer vacation. Santa's going to come out in July to spend some time with the folks at Kill Devil Hills. So a little Christmas celebration early. So
Just like Hallmark.
just like Hallmark, yeah, it's going to be.
Got to do the mid-year checkup.
Yeah, he's, so we'll find out which ones of us have been naughty or nice so far this year. He'll get a little earlier than he normally does. That's all I have for my mayor's agenda. Town manager's agenda.
No, sir. Thank you.
Town attorney's agenda.
Got nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, then let's move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you. Yes, sir. 3 items and minutes from the June 26, 2024 meeting, May 2024 monthly report, and 1 budget amendment carrying over contingency funds to the Wrightsville Phase 1 and 2 and the Southeast Area Water Project as approved at the May 13th, 2024 meeting. Approval of the consent agenda and a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we have a consent agenda. All right, now it's the time for our second installation public comment. If anybody feels inspired to share anything or anything they'd like to talk about, speak now. Floor is open. Seeing no takers, I'll close public comment. Responsive public comment, I do want to recognize the most excellent executive director of the Beach Food Pantry, Elizabeth Silverthorne, is here. I wish we had a section that said shout outs because it'd probably be more accurate to what this is, but Elizabeth does an awful lot. I have the privilege to serve on the board of the Beach Food Pantry with Elizabeth, who does a wonderful job at helping the people with food insecurity in Dare County. And the problem is much more acute than a lot of us feel and think and are aware of in our day-to-day lives. So thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is adjourn for motion. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right. Enjoy the evening.